In my past life, my aunt indulged my cousin in tipping a female streamer, hoping to marry a cash cow. My cousin spent his own salary, the family savings, and even took out loans just to become the top tipper. I advised my aunt not to enable my cousin any longer and privately messaged the streamer to block his video account, restricting his mindless spending. Not only did my aunt not appreciate it, she cursed me. "You wretched woman, you can't get married yourself, so you have to ruin my son's chances too. Is that what makes you happy?" Not long after, the streamer announced her marriage, and the groom was someone else. All my cousin's money went down the drain. My aunt told my cousin, "If it weren't for your cousin meddling, you'd be the one marrying the streamer now." Not only would it be impressive to show her off, but our family could also spend her money. My cousin held a grudge against me because of this and, during a wilderness gathering, pushed me off a cliff. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I meddled. "Thank you, Brother A, for the sports car. If Brother A could send me another rocket, I can't imagine how happy I'd be." Such a joyful little girl. The blaring music from the live stream jolted me awake. Dazed, I walked out and saw my aunt's family sitting in our living room. Snacks were scattered messily, trash littered the floor, yet not a single piece was thrown into the trash can. My cousin, Lee Deji, was staring at his phone with a lovesick expression, his fingers swiping back and forth on the recharge interface of short video app A. In the live stream, the female streamer cooed, "Brother A, send me a rocket, please, pretty please." Under the streamer's sweet persuasion, Lee Deji couldn't resist and recharged his account. The next second, dazzling special effects exploded on the screen, and the streamer squealed with delight, calling out, "Brother," several more times. Just then, my aunt greeted me. "Lon Lon, come here, see how pretty your future sister-in-law is." As she spoke, she grabbed Lee Deji's phone and shoved it in front of me. On the screen was a female streamer dressed provocatively, wearing heavy makeup, and using exaggerated filters. Lee Deji leaned in too. "What do you think, cousin? Isn't my future wife pretty? I just tipped her 1,000 yuan, to be deducted from the bride price." The familiar scene, the familiar dialogue. It was then I realized I seemed to have been reborn, back to the day in my past life when I foolishly tried to advise my aunt's family. Auntie stared at the screen filled with floating special effects, her eyes suddenly lighting up. "Son, your future daughter-in-law has tens of thousands of fans. Besides you, there are others sending her gifts. If you marry her, it's like bringing a money tree into our family. Not only will it be impressive to show her off, but we can also spend her money." Auntie's words seemed to open up a whole new world. Lee Deji suddenly became ecstatic, charging back into the recharge interface and spending several hundred yuan to send the streamer virtual sports cars, along with a few cringe-worthy comments. "Baby, you're like a little cake. It's only right for your hubby to spend money on you. I really want to kiss your little lips and hold your little hands sooner." It was almost too cringe to watch. I glanced at it and quickly looked away. Just then, my mom came out with a bowl of washed fruit. Hearing Auntie's words, she frowned and advised, "Guilin, you can't let Deji waste his money like this. Finding a wife through a screen is completely unreliable." My mom spoke sincerely, but Auntie immediately pulled a long face. "Your daughter is in her 20s and still unmarried, and I don't even want to bring it up. Are you only happy if my son ends up single like your daughter?" "Auntie, you really can't say that. This streamer looks like a perfect match for my brother. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven." I quickly stepped in to divert the attention away from my mom. Hearing these flattering words, the whole family grinned from ear to ear. Watching Lee Deji lost in his delusions, I clenched my fists, suppressing the anger boiling inside me. In this life, I'll respect others' fates and let go of the urge to help, but the debts that need to be repaid will still be repaid. In my past life, my cousin remained single until he was 30, no car, no house, earning a monthly salary of 2,000 yuan. Sometimes relying on family support, lazy and unmotivated, no woman wanted him. It was during this time that he became obsessed with a female streamer. At first, he only sent small gifts here and there, but later he started fantasizing about marrying her, and it spiraled out of control, nearly draining the family's savings. Thinking back to when my parents were busy with work and Auntie often took care of me, I didn't want to watch my cousin get played by the streamer, so I stepped in to stop him. I tried to reason with Lee Deji, urging him not to send any more gifts to the streamer. No matter how many gifts he sent, she would never marry him. Not only did Lee Deji refuse to listen, but he also thought I had ulterior motives. I had no choice but to talk to Auntie, but to my surprise, she was even more absurd. Not only did she fantasize about Lee Digi marrying the streamer, but she also dreamed of using her as a money tree. Left with no other choice, I privately messaged the streamer and explained the situation at home. Fortunately, the streamer was reasonable. As soon as she heard about my cousin and auntie's intentions, she was afraid of getting into trouble and promptly blocked all of my cousin's accounts. Only then did my cousin's dream of marrying a money tree come to an end, but not long after, news broke that the streamer had officially announced her marriage. Auntie actually blamed me for ruining their good fortune and lashed out at me. "You wretched woman, you can't get married yourself, so you have to ruin my son's chances too. Is that what makes you happy?" In the years that followed, my cousin never managed to get married. Whenever Auntie saw other families' sons settling down, starting careers, and having grandchildren, she would whisper in my cousin's ear, "Digi, it's not that I want to say this, but if it weren't for your cousin meddling, you would have married that streamer long ago. Rich and respected, the fact that you're still single is all thanks to Leland." Lee Digi held a grudge against me because of this. During a family picnic, he pushed me off a cliff. As I fell, his expression was filled with venom. "It's all your fault, we're family, yet you can't stand to see me do well. You deserve to die, you should have died long ago." After being reborn, I've learned to keep my mouth shut. Since that day, Auntie has often come over to our house, just to boast about Lee Digi's progress with the streamer, hoping to make my mom jealous. Lon, you have no idea. Digi and Tian are getting along so well now. At first, Tian only called your cousin by his online nickname, but after your cousin showered her with affection and pursued her relentlessly, she's even started calling him hubby now. I always said, the reason our Digi couldn't find a girlfriend wasn't because he lacked ability, it was just that fate hadn't brought the right one yet, and look, now it's finally here. As my aunt spoke, her eyes gleamed with a smile as she glanced toward my mother, sister-in-law. I'm not one to talk too much, but Lon isn't getting any younger. It's the perfect time for her to get married. Don't let her drag it out like our Digi did. Men are like flowers at 30, but women at 30, they're like tofu dregs. Heaven knows how much effort it took for me to suppress the corners of my mouth from curling up. A person's experiences and depth determine their perspective and insight. My aunt is a classic frog at the bottom of a well. Her mind is trapped in that backward well from decades ago, and no one can pull her out. I didn't want to argue with her, I just wondered, when karma finally catches up, will my aunt still be able to laugh so happily? The days passed one by one. About a month later, in the dead of night, I was jolted awake by what sounded like the screams of a slaughtered pig. At first, I thought it was a dream and rolled over, intending to go back to sleep, but the screams only grew louder and more frantic. Lon. Something must have happened next door at your aunt's place. Your dad isn't home. Come with me to check it out. I quickly threw on some clothes and followed my mother out the door. Just as we reached the entrance, a loud bang echoed from inside the house, followed by Lee Digi's wailing, "Dad, stop hitting me. I know I was wrong. I'll never send her gifts again. Besides, after spending so much money on her, she should be ready to marry me by now." I knew exactly what was going on as soon as I heard it. Doing the math, in my past life, around this time, Lee Digi had almost drained the family's entire fortune. Otherwise, how could he have gotten that live streaming hostess to fawn over him, with his 2,000 yuan salary, or with his 5'3", 200-pound frame? Hearing Lee Digi's cries, my mother hurried forward and knocked on the door. A moment later, my cousin's panicked face appeared behind the door. When he saw it was us, he grew agitated, quickly ducking behind my mother and clutching the hem of her clothes with his pudgy hands as he pleaded for help. "Aunt, save me, my dad's going to kill me." My mother, clearly unaware of what Lee Digi had done, shielded him and tried to mediate. "Brother, why are you hitting the child in the middle of the night? What on earth did he do?" Hearing this, my aunt rolled her eyes at my mother and cautiously glanced at my uncle. My uncle responded with a loud bang, kicking the nearest chair across the room. "You worthless son, he's been showering some online live streaming hostess with gifts all day long and has already blown through half of our family's savings, saved up over so many years. I really feel like beating him to death." Lee Digi, the brainless fool, seeing someone intervening, poked half his head out from behind my mother and shouted, "Dad, Tian isn't just any live streaming hostess, she's our future daughter-in-law." Mom agrees too. "The money I've been giving her is just like a betrothal gift. Once she marries into our family, we'll live off the money she earns from her streams." Before my uncle could catch his breath, he choked on these words, grabbed a nearby cup, and accurately hurled it at Li Diji's head. You find a way to pay back the half of our savings you wasted, marry a live-streaming hostess. If there's no mirror at home, isn't there any urine? Take a look at your square-shaped body. Even divorced women wouldn't give you a second glance, as expected of a biological father. His words were painfully spot on. Auntie instantly bristled. Li Chong, this is your own son. How can you talk about your own flesh and blood like that? I never thought I could give birth to such a pig-brained son, he retorted, eagerly throwing money at someone and still daydreaming here. In the end, it was my mother who spent a long time persuading and coaxing, and my cousin also wrote a guarantee, promising to mend his ways and make up for all the family's losses, before Uncle reluctantly let go of his remaining anger. A few days later, Auntie quietly came to see me alone. She got straight to the point. Lon Lon, you've read a lot of books, you're the most educated in our family, help your auntie analyze this. Is Diji marrying that live streamer girl unreliable? Diji has spent so much money, and there's still no progress. I'm worried, seeing that the family's money had been drained by Li Diji's spending. Her daydream was starting to fade, and she began to waver. In my past life, I tried hard to pull her family back from the brink, only to end up dying a miserable death. This time, I won't interfere anymore. Yet, Auntie is now waking up midway, afraid that if she thinks about it a little more, she'll see the whole picture clearly. I quickly started to sweet-talk Auntie. What are you talking about? That Tian Tian is very pretty, a perfect match for cousin, and I checked her profile. She has 30,000 followers and takes on all sorts of ads. You don't understand. Auntie, that's all money. Cousin has already spent so much on betrothal gifts, and money spent can't be taken back. How can we give up halfway now? Better let cousin try a little harder with her, hold on to this money tree, and then the wife will be his, won't she? Auntie's eyes darted around, the unease on her face gradually fading as she sank back into her fantasy. She grabbed my hand. Lon Lon, to be honest, your auntie doesn't want to give up either. Hearing you say this puts my mind at ease. You just wait and enjoy your cousin's wedding banquet. During the May Day holiday, my cousin Li Yu came back, bringing along a boyfriend who seemed very well matched. Our whole family was invited to Auntie's house for a visit. In front of both families, Li Yu and her boyfriend announced that after 2 years of dating, it was time to get married. The young man was somewhat shy, blushing as he glanced at Li Yu. Auntie, our family values Xiao Yu very much. My parents and I have discussed it. We'll offer 1 million as the betrothal gift, plus an additional 100,000 as a dowry fund, to be used together as startup capital for their new family, for raising children in the future. Do you have any objections? If not, I'll find a time for both families to meet and discuss your requirements in detail, as well as wedding arrangements, and so on. When she heard the amount of the betrothal gift, Auntie's eyes lit up as if she could see piles of money floating before her. She waved her hand grandly. You two are a perfect match. Talented and beautiful. Whenever you want to meet the in-laws, son-in-law, you just set the time. Seeing how readily Auntie agreed, the young man shyly took Li Yu's hand, not daring to look at her too much. We could all tell he genuinely liked my cousin. After the man left, my aunt pulled Li Yu aside and said, Sweetie, our family still has 100,000 in savings. I'll give you 50,000 as a dowry. You should also take out whatever savings you have, and I'll keep it all safe for you. Li Yu was still lost in her happiness. I have 50,000 saved up myself. Oh my, that makes it 1 million in betrothal gifts. A boyfriend this good is truly hard to come by. My aunt grinned from ear to ear. Xiao Yu, you must hold on to him tightly. That same day, Li Yu directly handed her savings bank card to my aunt. Everyone was immersed in joy, but only I noticed the strange look in Li Diji's eyes as he glanced at his cousin's bank card from the corner. I knew he hadn't given up yet. He wouldn't abandon that female streamer. Otherwise, in my past life, he wouldn't have become so obsessed. While they were away, I pulled Li Yu aside. Be careful of your brother. It's not safe to keep your savings at home. Li Yu looked at me suspiciously. Cousin, he's my brother. How could he harm me? Just as I was about to reply, my aunt came over with snacks, cutting me off, and I didn't say anything more. Among my aunt's family, only my cousin Li Yu was somewhat sensible. I didn't want her to be taken advantage of by that scumbag Li Diji either, but I'd said my piece. Whether she listened or not was up to her. During the few days Li Yu was home, the house next door remained quiet, as if nothing had happened, but I never expected that Li Diji, instead of targeting his own sister, would actually set his sights on me. That afternoon, just as I had put on a face mask, Li Diji walked into my house. Seeing me, he got straight to the point. Lon Lon, I know you must have money. You young girls all like to save up, how about this? Lend me a little, and I'll pay you back next month, any amount will do. He hesitated, rubbing his hands together, then stammered, how about 10,000, if that's too much, just give me whatever you have, I won't complain. I almost lost control of my expression. Did he really think I was a fool? But now that Li Diji had come to me for money, it was my chance for revenge. I pretended to be troubled and asked, brother, have you run into some trouble lately? Doesn't your family still have savings? Li Diji instantly looked as if he were sitting on pins and needles, unable to meet my eyes. He stammered for a long time before saying, well, I'm a grown man now, how can I still take money from the family? Haven't you taken enough already? I almost laughed out loud. Judging by his reaction, it was clear he had long since secretly spent the family's savings behind my aunt's back. I advised, bro, everyone has their tough times. If you're short on cash, just talk to auntie and pay her back later. The person in front of me grew even more flustered, quickly making an excuse to slip away. How could I let go of such a perfect chance for revenge? I quickly grabbed Li Diji. Bro, it's not that I don't want to help you. There are lots of loan ads in the alley outside. They say they don't charge interest, easier to borrow from than banks. Just take a walk out there. Maybe you can get a loan. Uneducated and desperate for money, Li Diji didn't think twice before hurriedly bidding me farewell. In my past life, Li Diji also borrowed from loan sharks, though I never knew where he found the connections. This time, to spare my cousin the trouble, I kindly pointed him straight toward a dead end. Li Yu and her boyfriend's wedding plans were finally on the agenda, and both families began discussing the arrangements. It had long been agreed that the bride's family would provide a dowry of 100,000 yuan, while the groom's family would give a bride price of 1 million yuan, but that morning, something went wrong. Andy checked every single bank card, top to bottom, but couldn't find the saved 100,000 yuan. Not just that 100,000, all the remaining family savings had vanished into thin air. For a moment, everyone's expressions turned awkward, and even the usually shy groom's face fell. Li Yu, we agreed on a 100,000 yuan dowry and a 1 million yuan bride price, both to serve as the foundation for our new home. Now, at this critical moment, you're telling me there's nothing. Do you really not know where the money went, or are you trying to get something for nothing? Li Yu's face flushed bright red, and moments later, tears streamed down her cheeks. Brother Shui, is that how you see me? My mom promised to keep it safe for me, and now I don't know where the money is either. Please believe me, okay? I've always been sincere with you. As soon as she finished speaking, her cousin emerged from the corner, his bulky body shoving the groom aside. What the hell are you saying? This is my sister, Li Diji's sister. How dare you bully her? If you want to mess with us, I'll skin you alive. Believe it or not, the groom's face turned a mix of green and red, and after a few seconds, he let out a bitter laugh. Fine, if I still believed you had some hardship before, now it's clear you have none, letting your brother throw a tantrum like this. Our engagement is off. I must have misjudged you all these years. With that, the groom left, leaving Auntie's family staring at each other in shock. Li Yu crouched in the corner, sobbing, while Li Diji, the real culprit, stood there smugly. I understood perfectly, no doubt. Li Yu's money had all been spent by Li Diji. Suspicious. I asked, cousin, you came to me for money a while ago and didn't get it. Now your sister's money is missing. Could it have something to do with you? At my reminder, Auntie and Uncle clearly remembered Li Diji's obsession with a live streamer and the time he wiped out the family savings. Li Diji's credibility had long been tarnished in their eyes, especially Uncle. Seeing his daughter distraught, he stepped forward and grabbed Li Diji by the ear. Out with it. Did you take your sister's money? A full 100,000 yuan in the bank. I don't believe it just grew wings and flew away. Li Diji was as shameless as a dead pig that fears no scalding water. Still playing dumb. What 100,000? How could I possibly take my sister's money? Dad, what kind of person do you think I am? Mom, say something. Mom, he shouted, looking toward his aunt, who at that moment also seemed hesitant. Diji, you say you didn't take it, but just a few days ago you asked me if your sister's dowry was ready and whether it should be stored in a safe place. I casually mentioned which bank it was in. The aunt's words trailed off there, but the implication of suspicion was already clear. At that moment, the cousin stepped out from the corner, her makeup completely smeared. Do you know how hard it is to find a normal person to date these days? I finally met a suitable man, and just when we were about to get married, look what happened. Li Diji, search your conscience and tell me, did you take it or not? I've long heard that you tip female streamers without restraint. I thought with your 2,000 yuan salary, even if you were reckless, there'd be a limit. I never imagined you'd reach into the family's pockets." Li Yu cried out in anguish, her newly manicured hands clawing wildly at Li Deji's face. Under the pressure, Li Deji finally began to crack. He whispered, Tian said if I could always be her top tipper, she'd marry me. I had no other choice. Little sister, please forgive your brother. Once your sister-in-law comes into the family, I'll have her prepare 1,000,000 yuan dowry for you. Okay, she has 30,000 followers. She can earn a lot of money in a day. Even the aunt couldn't bear to hear this anymore. She turned her face away in shame, unable to look at her family, but Li Deji didn't spare his mother either, instead shouting, "Ask Mom, she agreed to our marriage too. Mom fully supports me. Xiaoyu, your 100,000, I promise," Uncle roared, a resounding slap landing on Li Deji's face, instantly swelling the pig-like head as 2 streams of nose blood gushed out. After taking the hit, the cousin actually started acting recklessly. "I did it all for our family. Once I marry Tian, she can support us by live streaming every day, then you won't have to work so hard to earn money, will you? We can all spend hers. I'll beat you to death, you daydreaming fool." Uncle grabbed a broom and chased the cousin all around the house, the cousin darting around like a skyrocket, howling like a ghost as he ran. Aunt was probably genuinely furious too. A perfectly good marriage had been ruined just like that, so she joined the fight alongside Uncle. The couple pinned the cousin down and kept beating him, their spit alone nearly drowning him. A mixed doubles match. After a long while, the cousin, bruised and swollen, begged for mercy. "Stop hitting me, stop, Dad, Mom, I still have money to pay you back, I'll give it all back." With that, he tremblingly pulled out a bank card. "There's still 30,000 in here, take it back." The cousin actually managed to cough up money. Something was off, very off. Uncle, after all, was his biological father. He spotted the flaw at once. A good-for-nothing like. "You probably spent the money on tipping live streamers the moment you got it, didn't you? Out with it. Where did this money come from? Did you steal it or rob someone? You useless thing. Come on, let's go turn ourselves in with me." With Uncle taking such a firm stance, the cousin quickly caved. He confessed honestly, "I borrowed the money. Which of your trash friends, as useless as you, could lend you tens of thousands in one go?" Uncle wasn't buying it at all. The cousin touched his swollen face and whispered, "It's from a number on an ad posted on the wall outside." Uncle's broom clattered to the floor, and he stood there stunned for a long moment. "It's over, our family is finished. Li Deji, if I'd known you'd turn out to be such a hopeless disappointment, I should have stuffed you back in when you were born, sent you back for a remake." After saying that, my uncle grabbed everything in the house that could be moved and started hitting my cousin with them. The hard objects collided with flesh, producing dull thuds, and my cousin screamed in pain. This broke my aunt's heart. She quickly wrapped her arms around my cousin, begging my uncle to stop. Amid the chaos, Li Yu remained uncharacteristically silent. Seeing the situation, she hurried back to her room, packed her things, and left without saying a word to the family. My aunt wailed as she chased after her, returning a few minutes later with red, swollen eyes. My uncle also fell silent. Without a word, he walked toward the bedroom, then turned back to look at my aunt. "Pack up our things," he said. "We're putting this house up for sale." Finally snapping out of her daze, my aunt murmured, "Did you borrow from loan sharks?" Li Deji touched the messy wounds on his face, grimacing in pain. "What loan sharks? They said there's no interest. We can pay them back whenever we have the money." Seeing Li Yu leave in disappointment and my uncle's eerily calm reaction, my aunt, being a woman of her age, understood everything. My mother and I watched the entire drama unfold before leaving in frustration. No matter how close we were, it was still someone else's family affair. My mother sighed for a long time before finally saying, "It's better to have a daughter. Sons are nothing but trouble." A month after my uncle said he would sell the house, the loan sharks showed up. The 50,000 yuan Li Deji had borrowed had ballooned to hundreds of thousands, far beyond what the family could repay. Even if they sold their rundown house, it wouldn't be enough to cover the debt, and with the house listed multiple times without any buyers, the price would only drop further. The family of 3 all went out to work. My aunt moved from one hotel or restaurant to another, washing dishes and cleaning. My uncle and cousin went to construction sites, hauling bricks under the scorching sun. But even their combined efforts couldn't fill the bottomless pit my cousin had dug. My mother quietly sent tens of thousands of yuan to my aunt's family, only telling me about it afterward. She knew the money was likely gone for good, like meat buns thrown to a dog, but if it eased her conscience, it was worth it. Misfortunes never come singly. Under immense pressure, my aunt's family faced yet another challenge. My uncle fell ill. After a month of grueling work at the construction site, he was bedridden. His stomach pain so severe that he broke out in cold sweats all day, with my aunt and Lidiji both busy working outside. My mother and I took turns looking after him at their home. My uncle, now in his 50s, had once seemed energetic and lively, but in just a few months, half his hair had turned white, and the wrinkles on his face had deepened layer by layer. When he saw me, he awkwardly propped himself up. Lon, you're here, and you brought food. You really didn't have to trouble yourself. It's not like I can't get out of bed. As if trying to prove his point, he struggled to stand up but failed. To hide his embarrassment, he sat back down on the edge of the bed. It's just a stomach issue, nothing serious. Some medicine will fix it. If that were truly the case, why hadn't he gone to the hospital to get some medicine? It was clear that my uncle was aware his condition was quite serious, but given how dire the family's situation already was, if he went to the hospital and was diagnosed with a major illness, the difficulties they would face would be immeasurable. After leaving my aunt's house, I told my mother about how serious my uncle's condition was. That same night, as soon as my aunt got off work, she rushed my uncle to the hospital. Her daughter had drifted apart from the family, her son was unreliable, my uncle was the only person she could rely on in this life. At 11 o'clock that night, my mother received a call from my aunt. Sister-in-law, can your family still come up with some money? My aunt's voice was no longer as haughty as before. Instead, it was heavy with sorrow and pleading. My mother glanced at me while holding the phone, looking somewhat troubled. We just gave you 30,000 yuan a few days ago. We can't come up with any more right now. Did something show up in brother-in-law's checkup? After a brief silence on the other end of the line, there was a burst of suppressed sobbing, followed by my aunt choking back a few coughs before breaking into quiet tears. Gone, everything's gone. My husband has stomach cancer, late stage. There's no saving him. I have nothing left. He had stomach pains earlier, but he always said it was nothing. Who would have thought it would turn out to be something this serious? But where can our family possibly get the money now? What am I supposed to do? Listening to my aunt's cries, I felt not a single ripple of emotion. In my past life, because I had stopped my cousin's foolish actions in advance, none of these later events had happened. My aunt's family had continued living comfortably in that house. My aunt didn't have to work multiple jobs. My uncle and cousin never had to haul bricks at construction sites, and my uncle never fell ill. So in this life, everything that has happened to their family is entirely their own doing. They brought this upon themselves, and they have no one else to blame. Hearing how serious it was, my mother panicked. After hanging up the phone, she anxiously grabbed my arm. Lon, our family still has some savings. Should we lend it to them? I told my mother, you need to be prepared for the fact that if you give it to them, you'll never see it again, and when something happens in our family and we need money, who will you turn to then? Only then did my mother give up the idea of filling a bottomless pit. Besides, even if my mother did lend them the money, there was a good chance my cousin would just use it to tip live streamers. With no other options, my aunt had no choice but to borrow money from everywhere. Some people avoided her with their words, while others sighed in sympathy. From what relatives said, my aunt did manage to borrow some money. In the family group chat, relatives were all saying the usual polite things. Guilon, if anything really happens, remember to tell us. After all, we're family. That's right, late-stage stomach cancer. We'll pray to the Bodhisattva to protect your husband. You're the pillar of your family now. Guilon, you can't collapse. After borrowing the money and returning, my aunt brought some more and insisted my mother take it. Sister-in-law, I know you're kind-hearted. With my family's situation now, I have to work outside to earn money. Please take these few thousand yuan, and when you have time, go to the hospital to take care of your brother-in-law. I'm begging you. As she spoke, she was about to kneel to my mother. My mother is soft-hearted, and seeing my aunt like this, she quickly pushed the money back. We're all family. Sister, don't worry, I'll definitely take good care of brother-in-law. What no one expected was that the chance my aunt had begged and pleaded for, the chance for my uncle to live a little longer, was gone in the blink of an eye. My aunt decided to give my uncle chemotherapy, which required a large sum of money. I accompanied her home to get the money and saw her carefully peel back layer after layer of clothes, pulling out a cloth bundle from the very center, which she then placed in a canvas bag. At the hospital payment counter, My aunt held that cloth bundle as if it were the greatest hope of her life. The bundle was opened layer by layer, but inside were not money, but a few palm-sized comic books. My aunt was stunned, collapsing to the ground in an instant. My money, where did my money go? Seeing the people queuing behind us, I quickly pulled her up from the ground. I think the money went into the pocket of that female streamer again. My aunt's body trembled lightly, her lips quivering. How could it be? This is the money to save Deji's father's life, under the watchful eyes of the crowd. My aunt rushed out like a madwoman, afraid something might happen to her. I quickly chased after her. Under the scorching sun, my aunt ran all the way to the construction site where Deji was working. When I caught up, I was almost out of breath. My aunt stood on the construction site and shouted, "Deji, get out here." Deji's co-workers all stopped what they were doing and looked over. One of them pointed the way, and my aunt immediately picked up a brick, turned around, and charged in, with me following closely behind. The moment Deji saw my aunt's murderous expression, he understood. He quickly hid behind someone, shouting, "Mom, Mom, let's talk this out. Put the brick down first." "Deji, you have no heart, that's your own father," I begged everyone, almost kneeling, "just to borrow that money. Give me the money, or I'll beat you to death today." As she spoke, my aunt hurled the brick at him. My aunt went mad, grabbing anything she could reach and throwing it at Deji. Deji couldn't dodge in time, and his face was already covered in blood. This was the first time in my 2 lifetimes that I had seen my aunt so frenzied, and it was clear that Deji was seeing it for the first time too. He was completely stunned, letting my aunt grab him by the collar and slam him against the wall, letting the brick in her hands strike his body, only daring to whimper softly, "Mom, don't you like Tian Tian too? Don't blame me." Tian Tian said if I can keep being her top fan, she'll marry me. She also said she's saving up to buy a house, and once she has enough money for the down payment, she'll marry me. Look at your pig-like figure. Who would marry you? She's only after your money. Only a sucker like you would throw so much money at her. Deji, afraid his aunt would fly into another rage, quickly ran off, only to trip over a steel bar. The construction site was already littered with equipment lying every which way, and as he fell, he let out a sharp cry. Immediately, a pool of blood began to seep out from beneath him. Unless I was mistaken, that steel bar seemed to have struck a rather unfortunate spot. "Mom, help me, Mom, I was wrong," Deji kept shouting, but his aunt had already walked far away. After that, Deji was no longer my cousin, he almost became my cousin's sister. His manhood was ruined. My aunt now focused all her attention on my uncle and couldn't be bothered with him. All day long, I could hear him howling in pain next door. From my room, I really hoped their house would sell soon. One afternoon, I was taking a nap when my aunt came over. She stood uneasily at the door. The aunt who used to look down her nose at everyone was gone, replaced by a pitiful woman. "Lon Lon, is your mom home? Auntie needs to talk to her about something. She just went out. Is something wrong?" Hearing that my mom wasn't home, my aunt seemed even more flustered. "Never mind, it's nothing." The days of relentless toil had bent her back. After walking a few steps, she hesitantly turned back, asking with a hint of embarrassment, "It's like this, Deji tipped a live streamer, and Auntie wants to report it to the police to get some of the money back, but I'm too scared to go alone. Auntie isn't good with words, and I'm afraid the police won't take my side." I found it amusing. Forget the police not taking your side. No reasonable person would, right? Still, I put on my coat and went with her. At the police station, Auntie poured out her grievances through tears, sobbing about how Deji had been lured by the live streamer into constantly sending gifts. She cried about being middle-aged with her family falling apart, and she wept over having such a hopeless son, yet feeling utterly powerless. After taking her statement, the officer asked earnestly, "You're saying your son is 30 years old, right?" Auntie nodded blankly. The next moment, the officer sighed helplessly. A 30-year-old, fully capable adult with no intellectual or physical disabilities, voluntarily tipped that money. "There's nothing we can do. If you're really desperate, you could try negotiating with the streamer. If she's willing to refund it, there's still hope. If not, there's no way to get that money back by any reasonable standard." Auntie slumped instantly, her cloudy eyes filling with red veins as tears streamed down her face. Who would take money out of their pocket and give it back? Only a fool would do that, that's what people say. But how would you know without trying? Auntie clumsily found Tiantian's private messages on the short video platform and asked if she could return some of the money for a life-saving cause. Several hours later, she received a cold reply, "I didn't force him, can't refund." people came and went at the police station entrance, but Auntie just sat on the steps and began wailing loudly. I took a tissue from my bag and handed it to her, watching as her cries went from loud and clear to hoarse and strained. Just then, my mom called, "Lon Lon, let your aunt answer the phone, something big has happened." Things were already a tangled mess. I couldn't imagine what else could go wrong in Auntie's family. I put the phone on speaker and handed it over. My mom's voice on the other end was urgent, choked with tears. "Sister, come back quickly. I just went to get some food, and your husband disappeared. He left a note on the table, but I can't read." As soon as she finished speaking, Auntie shot to her feet and dashed outside, her figure looking even thinner amidst the traffic. I took Auntie back to the hospital by taxi. Just then, her phone screen lit up, and I saw it was a reply from Tian Tian. I reminded her, "Auntie, check your phone." Tian Tian seems to have replied again, exhausted from days of running around. Auntie wearily opened her phone. In an instant, her eyes lit up, and her rough hands gripped my arm tightly. Thank goodness, Lon Lon. Your uncle's medical expenses are covered." Tian Tian agreed to refund part of it. A dull thud sounded not far away, followed by screams from the crowd. Auntie and I both turned toward the source of the noise, only to see a person in a hospital gown lying in a pool of blood, flesh torn and unrecognizable. "Gone, everything's gone." Auntie's voice was faint. She cried, then laughed. Crying and laughing, she ran toward the crowd, toward that pool of blood and flesh. In middle age, her only hope had been severed today. My mom hurried over, holding a note in her hand. Seeing Auntie sobbing nearby, she instantly understood something and handed the note over. "This was left by your brother-in-law." I lowered my head to look. On the paper were a few short lines. "Goelon, I don't want to burden you. I know I can't be cured, and I don't want to see you suffer so much. I'll go ahead first." Uncle's funeral was hasty, with very few people attending. Even Li Diji, having lost his manhood and bedridden, was absent from the funeral. This culprit, the source of all the misfortune, still had to wait for Auntie to take care of him. Auntie's house was sold, and all the money was used to pay off debts. They moved into a very small, dilapidated, and narrow rental unit. My mom, soft-hearted, often visited them. I went once too, but only to watch the spectacle. A week after Uncle's death, a video suddenly surged to the top of the trending list on a short video app. In the video, the streamer, Tian Tian, smiled with a look of happiness. "Over these past days, I want to thank all my fans for your support. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have come this far. Of course, the one I need to thank the most is the top donor I met in the past 6 months. Thanks to his gifts, I've now bought a house, and among the myriad lights of the city, one of them is mine. Starting today, I won't be streaming anymore. The world is vast, and if fate allows, we'll meet again. My boyfriend and I are getting married, and all my fans are welcome to attend. For the big brothers who've consistently supported me on the leaderboard, if you'd like to come to Tiantian's wedding, send me a private message with your address, and I'll mail you an invitation one by one. Thank you all for being with me on this journey." The video gained immense popularity, with many people gathering in the comments section. Some were curious about how to get into the industry and make money. Others asked about the requirements to become a streamer, but most were envious of Tian Tian for meeting her top donor at such a young age. I wondered how Li Diji would feel if he saw this video. Afraid he might miss it, I quickly forwarded the video to the family WeChat group and tagged my cousin. "Cousin, are you and Tian Tian getting close? Why did she announce her wedding on the platform?" The family group fell into a rare silence, because of the big fuss over Uncle's death. Everyone knew about my cousin spending a fortune to gift a streamer and indirectly causing Uncle's death, although no one said it out loud. Privately, everyone wanted to spit on him. The next day, when I went out to pick up a package, I ran into my cousin. He stood by a trash can, tearing open a package with a resentful look on his face. From a distance, I only saw him take out a red envelope. Li Diji glanced at it, then suddenly threw it to the ground and stomped on it furiously. But soon, he bent down to pick it up again. Staring blankly for a while, I witnessed Li Diji's contradictory behavior from start to finish. It seemed he was planning to attend Tiantian's wedding. But I knew it couldn't be that simple. In my past life, just because Auntie nagged him about me a few times, Li Diji ended up killing me. This time, after being played for a fool by Tian Tian, I didn't believe he'd quietly wish her a happy marriage. The streamer had announced her wedding date in advance and planned to live stream the event so her fans could witness her happiness. Because of this, I pinpointed the streamer's location from the live stream and quickly took a taxi there, mainly because I was afraid of missing the show if I arrived too late. The wedding venue was bustling with excitement, and quite a few fans had shown up. The hall was decorated in a dreamy and beautiful style, the kind of scene every girl would adore. Now, let's welcome the bride and groom. Please join us in giving them a warm round of applause to witness this happy moment for the newlyweds. The host's voice boomed loud and clear. Soon, the couple walked hand in hand down the long aisle, cheers erupting continuously as everyone in the hall beamed with joyful blessings. I was scanning the crowd for my cousin when suddenly, a square-shaped man burst out from the throng, his cheap suit straining at the seams. Li Deji shouted as he ran, "You bitch, you whore, how dare you use my money to marry someone else? Go to hell, all of you, how dare you trick me?" His face flushed red with rage. He grabbed two bottled objects and frantically hurled them at the newlyweds, the bride and grooms. Agonized screams instantly echoed through the hall, and the audience scattered in panic, shrieking as they fled. In the blink of an eye, the wedding had turned into a farce. As a minor internet celebrity, the bride had ensured decent security at the venue. Within minutes, Li Deji's burly frame was pinned to the ground like a marble. Struggling and writhing, he yelled, "Let me go," she promised. If I became her top donor, she'd marry me. That bitch dared to play me, I'll take her down with me. Tian, to marry you, I spent everything I had, my family's gone, my dad's gone, and you have the heart to do this. How dare you just waltz off and marry someone else? As Li Deji continued his tirade, a security guard nearby stomped on his head, grinding it into the floor. The commotion was no small matter. Li Deji's intentional assault had already crossed into criminal territory. Soon, the police arrived, and my cousin was hauled off to prison. All that remained in my aunt's home was her. Alone, accompanied only by a black and white photo frame and the debts my cousin had left her before his imprisonment, medical expenses and compensation for emotional distress owed to the bride and groom, both live streamers. Day after day, month after month, year after year, my aunt lived on, lonely and burdened by guilt. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My son scored 659 on the college entrance exam, yet he threatened to take his own life unless I sent him and his girlfriend to a Sino-foreign cooperative university. To earn enough for the exorbitant tuition fees, I worked myself to the bone, not only developing a host of illnesses but also being diagnosed with stomach cancer. But my son and husband turned around and brought the mistress's family right through the door. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the day my son's college entrance exam scores were released. Holding my son, who was threatening to jump off the building, I wailed and cried, "Son, no more talk, let's go to a vocational college, we'll just go to a vocational college." Walking into her son's room, she found a suicide note on the desk. "Mom, forgive your son for being unfilial. I had hoped to repay you in the future and let you enjoy a peaceful old age. But I really don't want to put you in a difficult position. In this life, I couldn't fulfill my filial duties. In the next life, I still want to be your child." I held this piece of paper, reading it over and over again, my entire body trembling slightly. I had actually been reborn on the day my son's college entrance exam scores were released. In my previous life, on this very day, my son's college entrance exam results came out, 659 points. Enough to get him into a top-tier 985 university. Yet, in order to be with Su Jiejia, the daughter of my husband's first love, he deliberately went missing on me, just so I would pay to get both of them into the Sino-foreign cooperative university, University A, in City A. At the time, I thought that as long as my son was alive, anything else could be worked out, so I gritted my teeth and agreed to save up for the two of them, 400,000 a year for tuition and living expenses. I practically worked myself to the bone. Not only did I wear myself down until I was covered in illnesses, but in the end, I was diagnosed with stomach cancer. But I never expected that my husband and son would care so little about my sacrifices. After I was diagnosed with cancer, they quickly brought my husband's first love and her family into our home, leaving me to die alone in the hospital room. Given a second chance at life, I certainly won't make the same mistakes again. Not only that, but I will also make them pay the price they deserve for what they have done. After taking a few deep breaths, I took out my phone and called my husband, Zhang Jinghuan. As soon as the call connected, I immediately spoke anxiously with a tearful voice, "Honey, it's terrible, our son is missing. He left a letter in his room, and it looks like he's trying to kill himself." if anything happens to our son, how am I supposed to go on living? On the other end of the phone, Zhang Jingquan's voice was equally urgent. He immediately started blaming me. What? Our son is missing, Lu Yaru. How could you not even keep an eye on our son? If anything happens to him, I'll never forgive you. Zhang Jingquan's performance was quite convincing. In my previous life, I thought he was just as anxious and upset as I was, so I didn't pay much attention to his tone and attitude, but later, I accidentally overheard a conversation between him and our son, and only then did I realize that our son's disappearance was a scheme they had planned together. Dad, thanks to your idea, I can stay with Jejia. Mom might have to work a bit harder, but I have no choice, Jejia said she'd break up with me if we don't go to the same school, but I can't go to a vocational college with Jejia either. That would ruin my future. A Sino-foreign cooperative university is still better than a vocational college. On the other end, Zhang Jingquan sounded pleased with himself. Of course, when it comes down to it, you can always count on your dad. Just don't let your mom know that Jejia is Aunt Gu's daughter, or she'll definitely be furious with both of us. It wasn't until shortly before my death that I realized I had been played for a fool by the father and son all along. The grief and anger I felt at that moment were almost overwhelming, like a tidal wave threatening to drown me. I tightened my grip on my phone, took a moment to steady my emotions, then put on an anxious tone. Honey, where are you right now? Let me come find you, and we can search for our son together. Zhang Jingquan, however, had lost his earlier bravado and stammered an excuse. You look around first. I have a meeting right now. I can't get away for a while. Once the meeting is over, I'll head out immediately to meet up with you. In my previous life, I was so flustered that I didn't pay much attention, but now, I distinctly heard the faint sound of music playing in the background on the other end of the line. In a meeting? I don't believe it. I called Zhang Jingquan's colleague at the company again. Xiao Yang, my husband asked me to bring him something, but his phone is off now, and I can't reach him. Could you tell me where he is right now? Xiao Yang works at the same company as Zhang Jingquan, just in a different department. He told me that Zhang Jingquan's department was having a dinner party tonight, and the manager had booked a large private room. I drove to the address Xiao Yang gave me, and as soon as I arrived outside the private room, I heard a burst of cheering from inside. Drink up, drink up. The door was slightly ajar, not fully closed. Through the crack, I could see Zhang Jingquan holding a wine glass, about to drink a toast with another woman. I happened to know that woman. She was Zhang Jingquan's first love, Gu Mingchen. She and Zhang Jingquan dated for 2 years in college, and she broke up with him after graduation. A year ago, she joined Zhang Jingquan's company and started learning under him. Zhang Jingquan repeatedly assured me at the time that he and Gu Mingchen were a thing of the past, and that he only loved me now. But now, the two of them were standing very close, their arms intertwined, and the way they looked at each other seemed almost sticky with intimacy. All the colleagues around them, who were clearly aware that Zhang Jingquan had me as his wife, still couldn't resist stirring up trouble, shouting for the two of them to share a drink. After secretly taking a photo, I didn't give them a chance to drink and simply pushed the door open and walked in. Honey, I asked several of our son's classmates, and they all said they haven't seen him. Stop the meeting and come with me to find our son. The atmosphere in the private room instantly turned cold. Zhang Jingquan immediately withdrew his hand guiltily, nearly spilling the wine from his glass onto Gu Mingchen's clothes. He walked over, pulling me to go outside and talk. How did you find me here? I refused to leave, looking at his colleagues with a tearful face. Please, can you let my husband leave first? My son has been missing since his college entrance exam scores came out, and I can't find him anywhere. My husband said he would come and search with me after the meeting, but I'm just too anxious. I really can't wait any longer. Only then did the others realize that Zhang Jingquan had not only lied to me but was also drinking a cross-cupped wine toast with someone else, fully aware that his own son was missing. For a moment, their gazes toward him were tinged with contempt. Zhang Jingquan probably felt his pride was at stake, his face alternating between red and pale, his voice tinged with a hint of flustered frustration. Got it, I'll go find my son right now. All right. Just a few steps out of the private room, Gu Mingchen caught up with him. Sis, let me help you search too. My daughter is about the same age as your son. If my daughter went missing, I'd be worried sick. Her tone was extremely sincere, and the concern and worry on her face didn't seem fake. Zhang Jingquan looked at her, his gaze practically melting with affection. Mingchen, it's so great that you can help with the search. You're truly beautiful inside and out. I Don't believe Gu Mingchen wasn't involved in the scheme set up by the father and son, since she knew about it, yet still came to me pretending to be a good person. Her hypocritical act just makes me sick, but since she wants to help, I certainly won't let her come for nothing. I took out my phone and opened WeChat. Well, Mingchen, I won't stand on ceremony with you. After all, finding my son is the priority right now. Let's add each other as friends, and I'll send you some phone numbers. Could you please call them one by one and ask if my son is with them? Gu Mingchen blinked, hesitated for a moment, but still opened her phone's QR code. After adding each other as friends, seeing a long list of phone numbers, her expression suddenly changed. Sis, there are so many, there must be 70 or 80 of them. 109. Before Gu Mingchen could say anything, Zhang Jingquan grew anxious first. 109, how long will it take Mingchen to call all of them? After saying this, he realized his reaction was somewhat inappropriate and immediately softened his tone. Honey, why don't you go look elsewhere first? I'll stay here and help Mingchen make the calls. Zhang Jingquan's calculating mind is practically leaping out at me. In my past life, I was frantic like an ant on a hot pan searching for our son, yet he was in a private room, sweetly drinking a wedding cup of wine with Gu Mingchen. Now, I've called him out, but he still wants to send me away so he can continue his little world with Gu Mingchen. Do you think I'll let him have his way? I grabbed Zhang Jingquan's arm and flatly refused his suggestion. Honey, since Mingchen offered to help, don't make things more complicated. Let's go ask around at the relatives' houses together. If we can't find him today, we won't sleep either. Our son's life is at stake. At the mention of not sleeping, Zhang Jingquan let out a frustrated, huh. I ignored him and turned to Gu Mingchen again. Mingchen, please hurry up with the calls. Once we find our son, I'll call each of them back to let them know he's safe. At this point, the meaning is quite clear. Don't even think about slacking off. Not a single phone call can be missed. Gu Mingchen pursed her lips, clearly unwilling, thinking I couldn't see. She secretly pinched Zhang Jingquan's arm. The next second, Zhang Jingquan slapped his forehead. Honey, I just remembered a place. Our son might be there. Zhang Jingquan kept glancing at his phone on the way, probably tipping off their son. Judging by the route, the location where their son jumped remained exactly the same. Still the rooftop where he had appeared in the previous life. On the way up the stairs, I asked Zhang Jingquan in confusion, Honey, how did you know about this place? I never heard our son mention it. Zhang Jingquan answered without hesitation, This is our son's secret hideout. When he felt stressed from studying before, he would ask me to bring him here to get some fresh air. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have believed his explanation, but he was clearly lying. When they brought Gu Mingchen and Su Jiejia into the home, I finally learned that Gu Mingchen actually lived in the same building where my son had jumped. Before my son appeared, he had been staying at her place the whole time, busy falling in love with Su Jiejia, completely unaware of how frantic I would be when I couldn't find him. Walking onto the open space of the rooftop, I saw my son not far away. He stood at the edge of the rooftop, poised as if he were about to jump. Seeing me, he immediately shouted, Mom, don't come over. My son wanted to put on a show, so of course I had to play along. I squeezed a few tears from my eyes and yelled at him to come down. Son, don't be impulsive, listen to your mother, come down quickly. Didn't you do pretty well on the college entrance exam today? Why are you suddenly so desperate that you want to jump off a building? Zhang Jingquan and Gu Mingchen were also there, hypocritically trying to persuade him. Son, come down quickly, we can talk things out properly. If you have any difficulties, just tell your parents, they will definitely support you. TSK, that's laying the groundwork. My son wiped his face, looking quite troubled. As he talked about his difficulties, he was secretly observing my reaction. Mom, I've fallen for a girl in my class. She's cheerful, lively, and has a great personality. We promised each other we'd go to the same university, but she didn't do well on the college entrance exam this year. The scores came out today, and she only got a little over 400. Mom, I'm an unfilial son, but I want to go to the same university as her. However, with her grades, she can only get into a vocational college. I know you definitely won't agree, but I don't want to put you in a difficult position either. Before I could say anything, Zhang Jingquan started scolding him first. You little brat, are you throwing away your own future just for a relationship? You worked so hard to score over 600 points. How could you possibly go to a vocational college? Gu Mingchen chimed in from the side. Yes, child, you really need to think this through. 3 years of hard work, finally making it through. How can you go to a vocational college? You can't go, you absolutely can't. both of them wore expressions of deep concern, taking turns trying to persuade their son not to attend the vocational college. Acting completely unaware of the truth, my son's attitude was also very firm. But I really like her, I just want to go to the same university as her. If we break up because of this, I might as well be dead. After saying that, he turned his gaze to me, a hopeful light shining in his eyes. Mom, what do you think? In my previous life, it was exactly like this. Several people performed a grand drama in front of me, singing in harmony, and in the end, they threw the difficult problem to me at that moment. I didn't want my son's life to end so easily, nor did I want him to ruin his future in a moment of confusion, so I almost lowered myself to the lowest possible stance, pleading softly with him not to give up and asking if there were any other options. It was then that my son took a step back and suggested a Sino-Foreign cooperative university in City A. This university is highly ranked, and they arrange for students to study abroad in the 4th year. With my score, I can get into their flagship program. It may not be as good as a 985 university, but it's definitely better than a vocational college. Mom, it's just that Jejia's family isn't well off. If she wants to go, you'll have to help cover her tuition. I just couldn't figure it out back then. My son had clearly come prepared. He claimed he didn't want to put me in a difficult position, yet he tried to force my hand by threatening to take his own life. He didn't even consider my financial struggles, insisting that I cover the hundreds of thousands in tuition and living expenses. I guess it's just my luck. After raising a child for 18 years, I ended up with an ungrateful traitor who turns against his own family. With that thought, I decided not to say anything more and simply nodded in resignation. Son, if you really like that girl that much, then you can go to a vocational college with her. Mom believes that as long as you're gold, you'll shine wherever you go. Yeah, right? The atmosphere froze. For a moment, the three of them exchanged glances, seemingly surprised that I had agreed so readily. Zhang Jingquan stiffened his neck and blamed me. Honey, aren't you being reckless? Our son scored over 600 points. How can he go to a junior college? I shot him a sidelong glance. Then what do you suggest? Our son is threatening to jump off a building. Zhang Jingquan, are you really going to stand by and watch our son die? Zhang Jingquan was already feeling guilty, and my retort left him even more deflated. He blinked at Gu Mingchen beside him as if pleading for help. Gu Mingchen understood and quickly came to persuade me. Sis, the child may be confused, but you can't be. Going to university is a major life decision. It can't be made so hastily. Is there really no other way? My child, for instance, are there any joint Chinese foreign schools with good rankings and low admission scores? Wouldn't that be better than a junior college? Gu Mingchen certainly had a clever plan in mind. Her own child didn't do well on the college entrance exam, so she wanted to use my son's connections to get her into a good university, without spending a single cent herself. I sneered inwardly but interrupted her urgently on the surface. No need to say more. I respect my son's wishes. He's already an adult. I believe that choosing to attend a vocational college must be a decision he made after careful consideration. The wind grew colder, causing his son to shiver, or perhaps it was because he was starting to feel a bit flustered. He urgently called out to me, Mom, didn't you always want me to get into a good university? You clearly said that the better the school, the bigger the platform. Are you really willing to let me go to a junior college? After all, he was the son I had raised for over a decade, and he knew exactly how to play on my feelings. In my family, boys were favored over girls. Anything good had to be given to my younger brother, who was 3 years my junior. I refused to accept my fate, so I threw myself into studying, relying on my own efforts to make it all the way to graduate school. After graduation, I worked for a few years before quitting to start a business with others. The business didn't grow too large, but it was stable, earning over 300,000 a year, making me the family's main financial provider. Looking back on over 40 years, my biggest realization has been the importance of education. That's why, from the time my son was young, I've always emphasized to him the need to study hard and take his education seriously. Little did I expect that, although my son excelled in his studies, he failed to grow into a decent adult. Now, he's even joined forces with my husband and outsiders to turn against the mother who gave birth to and raised him. I nodded gently. Son, go ahead and read. I won't stop you. Mom, no, My son was flustered, completely unaware of me approaching step by step, taking advantage of his distraction. I pulled him down from the edge in one swift motion. Before my son could say anything, I hugged him and wailed uncontrollably, Son, let's not talk about it anymore. To a vocational college, we'll go to a vocational college, after rescuing my son, everyone fell into an eerie silence. I turned a blind eye to it all, just greeted Gu Mengchen, then took my husband and son back home. Once we got home, my son still wouldn't give up. He tried hard to steer the conversation toward university. Mom, if you really don't want me to go to a vocational college, I could, before he could finish. I stuffed a cherry tomato into his mouth. Son, don't say any more. Mom supports you 100%. Go back to your room, I'll make dinner. I said I'd make dinner, but I just ordered takeout in the kitchen. After placing the order, I quietly walked to my son's bedroom door. Sure enough, the father and son were discussing countermeasures. Dad, what should we do? I scored over 600 points. I really don't want to go to a vocational college. It's all your fault. You kept dragging your feet, insisting on going to a vocational college. If you had mentioned University A earlier, none of this would have happened. I was just trying to play it smart. I thought Mom would definitely refuse to let me go to a vocational college, and then when I said I wanted to go to University A, she'd agree. Who would have thought? The father and son bickered for ages, and in the end, they even had the nerve to blame me for it. They insinuated that I didn't care about my son's education, since I actually let him go to a junior college. Not a hint of remorse in sight. In the end, the son asked Zhang Jingquan if he had any good ideas. Zhang Jingquan pondered for a moment, then slapped his thigh decisively. Then let's just go all out and break the pot since it's already cracked. What do you mean? When you and Jejia fill out your college applications, just put down University A directly, without worrying about whether your mom agrees or not. Once the admission letters arrive, everything will be settled. Your mom definitely won't abandon you. No matter if the tuition is hundreds of thousands, she'll surely cover it for you. Zhang Jingquan was on a fixed salary, earning just 3,000 yuan a month. Relying solely on him, the whole family would be left to fend for themselves. Yet now, he can so casually suggest that I come up with hundreds of thousands. My son didn't see anything wrong with his words either. Instead, he praised Zhang Jingquan. Dad, you're so clever, let's do as you say. Both father and son are first-class selfish devils. I quietly walked back to the kitchen. Since they insisted on applying to University A, then let them apply. In any case, don't expect me to pay a single cent. On the day of filling out college applications, I deliberately asked my son which school he had chosen. He stammered and brushed me off, saying, "Anyway, it's just a junior college. What difference does it make which one I pick?" I pressed on, but he waved his hand impatiently. Mom, stop asking. You'll know when the admission letter arrives. A few days later, his attitude completely changed. You came to me on your own, just to ask for money. Mom, can you give me 20,000 yuan? I want to take Jejia on a trip this summer. I've worked hard for 3 years studying, and now that the college entrance exams are over, I want to relax a bit. Worked hard. I watched him and Zhang Jingquan discussing how to trick me, and it seemed quite easy, but I didn't say much more. I took out my phone and transferred 50,000 yuan to my son. He immediately beamed with joy. Mom, you're so generous. Thank you, Mom, you're welcome. After all, it's all from Zhang Jingquan's salary card. When we first got married, Zhang Jingquan linked his bank card to mine to show his loyalty. His meager salary was sometimes not even enough for his own expenses, so I never touched it. Bit by bit, I managed to save 50,000 yuan. It just so happened to come in handy today. Not long after my son left, Zhang Jingquan called me. He called 4 or 5 times, but I didn't answer a single one. As soon as work hours ended, he rushed home immediately. He asked me urgently, Lu Yaru, why did you transfer my money away? I calmly took a sip of the freshly brewed flower tea. I transferred it to our son. He wants to take his girlfriend on a trip. Hearing that the money was transferred to their son, Zhang Jingquan's temper deflated a bit, but he still felt a bit indignant. If our son wants to travel, why did you transfer my money? Don't you have your own money? Drawing such a clear line, I smiled slightly at Zhang Jingquan. Honey, are you sure you want to settle accounts with me? Zhang Jingquan is 3 years younger than me. When I finished my master's degree, he had just graduated from university. He failed his postgraduate entrance exam, then prepared for a second and third attempt, but failed each time. After that, he started preparing for the civil service exam. For 3 years, he was unemployed and relied entirely on my support. Later, when we got married, the so-called bride price he offered was also from my savings. I thought he was reliable and honest, someone to build a life with, and I never made a fuss about money. I did my best to provide him and our son with the best in food, clothing, and daily necessities, but now it seems I was completely blind. Zhang Jingquan's so-called honesty was simply because he lacked the means to mess around. Zhang Jingquan at least had some self-awareness. When I asked him that, he didn't press me any further, just muttered a few words under his breath. I couldn't be bothered with him and casually opened my social media feed. Gu Mengchen's latest post, future son-in-law, sneaky laugh, JPG. The accompanying image was a screenshot of a chat with the profile picture cropped out, showing a transfer of 10,000 yuan from the other side, claiming it was to show filial respect to the mother-in-law, truly worthy of being my good son. When he wants to be good to someone, he really spares no expense. It's just a pity that he never once thought of being good to me. For this trip, my son really went all out on luxury. Travel is in first class, and accommodations are at luxurious 5-star hotels. The exquisite afternoon tea in the photos is something I could never bring myself to buy for myself in a lifetime. In the last photo of the 9-square grid, he has one arm around Su Jejia on a yacht, smiling wildly and boldly at the camera, the very picture of a life winner. When the winner of life returned from his trip, the admission letter had also arrived. Without a hint of guilt, he directly handed the letter to me. Mom, look, I've been accepted into University A, as expected of a Sino-Foreign cooperative university, flush with funds. Even the admission letter was printed with gold foil. I feigned surprise. This isn't a vocational college, is it? International joint venture universities must have really expensive tuition, right? I just wanted to give it a try back then, but I never expected both Jejia and I would get accepted. My son put on a troubled expression. Mom, the tuition is indeed a bit expensive, 200,000 a year. Jejia's family isn't well off, so we might need you to help out a bit when the time comes. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly, knowing full well our family's financial situation isn't great, yet still rushing to apply for a Sino-Foreign cooperative university. This clearly means she's taking me for granted. In this lifetime, I refuse to be that sucker. I turned to my son with a troubled expression. Son, how could you make such a big decision without discussing it with me? Supporting you alone is already a bit of a stretch for me, let alone having to support 2 people. Upon hearing this, my son simply threw a little tantrum. Mom, I don't care, I must attend a university with Jejia. After all these years, you must have some savings, right? Or you could sell some of your jewelry and clothes. Mom, just think of this money as a loan from you. When you're old, Jejia and I will definitely take good care of you. With memories from my past life, hearing my son say these words now only feels ironic, but I just gritted my teeth and nodded as if resigned to my fate. All right, I can't let you drop out of school. I'll do my best. Mom, you're so good to me. Before my son could finish, I quickly interrupted. However, this year's tuition might take me some time. You gave me the news too late, and I don't have that much money on hand right now. You and Jejia should apply for a student loan first. In a little while, Mom will have the money. With me putting it that way, my son couldn't press me any further. He said, all right, and before leaving, he didn't forget to remind me repeatedly to save up more money as soon as possible. I do need to save money. It's not for him to save, having lived 2 lifetimes. It's my turn to enjoy myself. At the end of August, my son went to register at school. City A isn't far away, just a half-hour trip by high-speed rail. After Zhang Jingkuan and I delivered our son's luggage to a university, we took him around City A for a stroll. On the way, I asked my son about the student loan. He patted his chest, looking quite proud. Jejia and I have both applied, and the money will be in our account soon. Mom, you should hurry up and earn more money. I heard that living in City A isn't cheap. Earn money, ever since being admitted to University A. My son has been hounding me like a grim reaper, urging me to earn more and save more. Zhang Jingkuan, on the other hand, is as relaxed as if nothing is wrong, but I have my own plans too. The student loans for the 2 of them are no small sum, and for children who have just come of age, this is an enormous temptation, especially since the 2 of them had just spent tens of thousands of yuan in just a few days not long ago. It's not easy to go from luxury to frugality. Sure enough, one evening in early September, Gu Mengchen posted a new update on her social media. In the photo were 2 brand new C brand bags. Caption, C brand's new release, one for me and one for my daughter. Don't say I'm playing favorites. I know this bag. It's the new product they've been teasing since August. It costs 100,000 each, 2 bags, no more, no less. Exactly the amount of Su Jejia's annual tuition. The next day, my son rushed back home. His eyelids were red, with 2 dark circles beneath them, looking as if he hadn't slept well all night. When Zhang Jingkuan and I came out, we were startled by his appearance. Seeing me, my son seemed to have found a lifeline, quickly grabbing my arm. Mom, you have to help me. all my money was scammed away, and I can't pay the tuition. The school said if I don't pay by the end of the month, I'll be expelled. So it turns out Gu Mingchen and Su Jiejia used their son's student loan to buy those bags. They were certain I wouldn't abandon our son, so they spent his money without a second thought. But what disappointed me the most was my son. I worked myself to the bone for this family, not even daring to look at a 10,000 yuan bag, yet he, with his false generosity, casually spent 200,000, and then he turned around and came to me to clean up his mess. I picked up my phone, dialed 110, and started by saying I wanted to file a case. The phone was snatched away by my son, who then hung up the call. "Mom, what are you doing? Why are you calling the police? Didn't you just get scammed out of 200,000? We have to report it." My son fell silent, unable to refute me, but he clutched the phone tightly, refusing to let me take it back. Zhang Jingquan must have known about Gu Mingchen's WeChat Moments post. If you just think about it a little, you can figure out where your son's money went. He hurriedly stepped in to smooth things over. "Honey, the most urgent thing right now is to gather our son's tuition. I'll handle the matter of reporting to the police. You can trust me to take care of it. Don't you worry my foot." I no longer held any hope for this father and son, so I plopped down on the ground and began wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. Neither the old nor the young gives me a moment's peace. I can't come up with the money, my business is in trouble, and I haven't even figured out how to pay the workers' wages yet. Both my son and Zhang Jingquan's expressions changed. Zhang Jingquan finally found his voice and hurriedly asked, "Honey, isn't your business doing well? What happened?" I cried to him, tears and snot streaming down my face. The latest batch of materials had issues, and the product quality didn't meet standards. It's completely unsellable. In order to earn more money for my son, I invested all my savings, but who could have imagined? I run a solid wood furniture business, and the market has been quite good. Zhang Jingquan only knows that I make more money than he does. He has never asked about my business affairs, so he didn't suspect a thing when I casually made up that story. What about the workers' wages? I sat on the floor, wiping away my tears. Not just the workers' wages. There are many other payments that haven't been settled. All in all, we still owe over 3 million to others. Husband, son, you'll stay by my side and help me through this, won't you? It's fine if you don't ask, but once you do, it's even worse. The two of them stared at each other, wide-eyed, unable to utter a single word of solidarity. Zhang Jingquan and his son helped me up from the ground, offered a few token words of comfort, and then escorted me into the room, telling me to lie down and rest. After the two of them left, I turned on my phone and connected to the surveillance camera I had installed in the room. The father and son went to the study, which was quite far from my room. As soon as they entered, Zhang Jingquan cursed me under his breath. "Damn that wretched woman." His son anxiously turned to him for help. "Dad, what should we do now? Not only is the tuition gone, but Mom also owes a pile of debts. Am I not completely finished? I don't want to drop out." Zhang Jingquan irritably ran his fingers through his hair. Looking somewhat anxious, he took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a few puffs. Finally calming down, he said in a low voice, "I want a divorce from your mother." My son's eyes widened. Divorcing my mom at this critical moment? What will happen to my mom after the divorce? She can do whatever she wants. Zhang Jingquan took a deep drag of his cigarette. After the divorce, things like the house will be considered joint marital property, and I'll definitely get my share. This house can sell for at least 5 or 6 million. Once your mom gets the money, go ask her for your tuition. She's your mother. She definitely won't just ignore you. When the time comes, we'll just enjoy the good life. And your mom can go find somewhere cool to hang out. His son gave him a thumbs up. "That's my dad for you." Watching from behind the screen, I was practically ready to explode. I put down my phone, turned over, and pulled out the divorce agreement that had already been signed long ago. "Don't you want a divorce? Then I'll grant your wish, but don't even think about taking a single thing from this house." The next day, Zhang Jingquan wasted no time in having someone draft the divorce agreement. I stared at him intently. "When we got married, didn't you say we'd share both joy and hardship?" Zhang Jingquan, haven't I treated you well all these years? Without me, could you have achieved this standard of living on your salary alone? Zhang Jingquan showed not a hint of remorse and shamelessly played the rogue. "I can only share the good times with you, not the bad. When the time comes, the son stays with me. I don't want him living a hard life with you." No wonder she was determined to get a divorce. Her words carried a lot more conviction now. If it were anyone else in this situation, I could understand wanting a divorce, but Zhang Jingquan was not up to it. Back when he was preparing for his second attempt at the postgraduate entrance exam, he was scammed into taking out a loan of over 500,000 yuan through online chatting. He knelt on the ground, crying and begging me to help him. At that time, I had just become a regular employee, and after covering all my expenses, I barely had any savings left to repay his debt. I survived on steamed buns and cabbage every day. Worked overtime until I was sick to my stomach, and pushed through 2 years of intense labor, managing to pay off every last cent. Zhang Jingquan held me and cried for a long time, raising his hand to swear that no matter what, whether I fell ill, grew old, or faced any hardship, he would never leave my side and would walk with me all the way to the end, saying it would last a lifetime. Yet, in such a short time, he had completely changed his tune. I glanced at my son standing nearby. It's settled. Then, you're going with your dad, Mom. I have no choice. I still need to continue my studies. You're in such a situation that you can hardly protect yourself. Since everything has been agreed upon, there's no need to say more. I nodded, indicating my agreement to the divorce. Zhang Jingquan had quite the audacity. On the divorce agreement, he demanded 50% of all assets involved in the property division. It also stated that after our son goes with him, I would have to pay him 10,000 yuan per month for living expenses. Better to become a robber. My gaze shifted between Zhang Jingquan and the agreement, making him visibly uneasy. After a moment, I walked into the room. I'll go get a pen to sign. The divorce agreement was in duplicate. When I brought it out, Zhang Jingquan, as if afraid I would change my mind, immediately signed his name. Everything was settled, and the word smug was practically written all over his face. Lu Yaru, hurry up and pack your things. Move out as soon as possible. In a few days, I'll have someone sell the house. After all, our son needs to pay tuition, and you have debts to settle. If there's nothing important in the future, let's each go our own way and not bother each other. He spoke harshly, but in the end, he was the first to break his word. There was no other reason, because 2 days later, he discovered that I had swapped out the divorce agreement. Just after breakfast, Zhang Jingquan stormed into the house with our son in tow, followed closely by Gu Mengchen. The commotion was so grand, as if he was afraid no one would know about his little scandal with Gu Mengchen. He slammed the divorce agreement onto the table, furious and unable to contain his anger, shouting, Lu Yaru, there's nothing you wouldn't do. Where's my copy of the divorce agreement? I gestured toward it with my chin. Isn't this your copy of the divorce agreement? Zhang Jingquan was so angry he laughed. Are you messing with me? Take a look yourself. What on earth is written here? Zhang Jingquan didn't want to suffer a loss, and neither did I. It's just that compared to his bandit-like behavior, mine was far more reasonable. After all, I was the one who paid for almost everything in the house, so I didn't see any problem with making him leave with nothing. As for my son, since he wants to support him, I won't stop him. But the 10,000 yuan living allowance is out of the question. After all, he's an adult. Since he's capable of siding with outsiders, he shouldn't expect to have his cake and eat it too, let alone think about getting money from me. I shrugged indifferently and said nothing. Gu Mengchen, however, started lecturing me in a hurry. Sis, look at what you've done. Brother Kuan has been with you for so many years. Even if he hasn't contributed much, he's put in effort. Why treat him like this? What hardship? I repeated word by word. What hardship has he endured? Don't be fooled by Gu Mengchen's smooth talk. When I asked her this, she was left speechless herself, stammering for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Since she couldn't say it, I'll say it for her. After graduating from college, he failed the postgraduate entrance exam twice, then tried for the civil service exam. For 3 years, he didn't work and relied entirely on my support. He was scammed into taking out a loan of 500,000 yuan, and I paid it all back for him. Marry me, no car, no house, even the betrothal gift was paid from my savings. After marriage, he earns 3,000 a month, living like a lord every day. The moment he gets home, he flops on the sofa, complaining about being too tired to even wash a bowl. My son's shoes cost 2,000, none of his clothes are under 500, for tutoring classes and summer camps. Zhang Jingquan neither contributed money nor effort. Tell me, what hardship has Zhang Jingquan ever endured? After my outburst, Gu Mengchen was a bit stunned. After all, Zhang Jingquan always put on a decent face in public. Who would have thought that, deep down, he was just a lazy good-for-nothing who couldn't help with anything? Zhang Jingquan probably felt his pride was hurt and quickly told me to shut up. Lu Yaru, if you have something to say, just say it, don't try to change the subject. My son actually took his side and even seemed to threaten me a bit. Mom, why are you treating Dad and me like this? This is fraud. A divorce agreement signed under these circumstances is invalid. My son's years of schooling weren't in vain. He still knows a thing or two about the law, but with all their dirty laundry, what more could they possibly stir up? I shifted my gaze to Gu Mengchen, staring at her with a meaningful smile. Gu Mengchen, that bag is quite nice to carry, isn't it? Do you like Jejia? Upon hearing the name Su Jejia, all three of them froze in surprise. Gu Mengchen's voice was noticeably tense. Sis, what are you talking about? What Jejia? You don't even know your own biological daughter's name anymore. Now that we're divorced, I can't be bothered to keep up the act with them anymore. Don't think I don't know. My son's student loan wasn't stolen by some scammer. It was you two who used that money to buy a bag, you ungrateful traitors, and you still have the nerve to come back and ask me for money. My son's face showed the guilt of being exposed, and he didn't even dare to look me in the eye anymore. Over there, Gu Mengchen was still stubbornly insisting. Sis, you're really wronging me here. I bought the bag with my own salary. How could it possibly be your son's savings? She cooed and fawned over Zhang Jingkuan. Brother Kuan, just look at your sister. I came here to help solve your problems, and now I'm being smeared with dirt. Zhang Jingkuan ate this up. A few calls of Brother Kuan had him floating on air. He slammed the table so hard it shook the room. Lu Yaru, if you don't re-sign the agreement, we'll see each other in court. Heh, he sure knows how to put on an act. I couldn't be bothered with more words. I pulled a stack of photos from my bag and flung them unceremoniously at Zhang Jingkuan. The photos scattered across the floor, a sight not meant for children's eyes. I sneered. Fine, then let the judge take a look at what you and Gu Mengchen were up to in that hotel. I'll be curious to see whether the judge supports me in stripping you clean in the divorce. Zhang Jingkuan had been leaving early and returning late every day recently, and sensing something was off, I hired a private detective to follow him. To my surprise, as soon as he got off work, he would take Gu Mengchen shopping and to the movies, and then they'd head to a hotel for a short stay. Since I paid a hefty sum, the private detective provided me with photos that were both intimate and high definition. The evidence of Zhang Jingkuan's affair was absolutely undeniable. The son picked up the photos from the floor, his expression shifting from shock to disgust. Before he could take a closer look, Zhang Jingkuan snatched the photos away from him. Lu Yaru, you set me up. Gu Mengchen still had some wits about her. After a moment's thought, her face changed. Lu Yaru, you never actually owed any money, did you? You just wanted Brother Kuan to divorce you. As soon as these words were spoken, they struck like a sudden clap of thunder, catching Zhang Jingkuan and his son completely off guard. I nodded with a smile. That's right, you guessed correctly. I drove the three of them out of the house. Before leaving, my son was still looking at me with an expression of disbelief. Mom, how could you be so heartless? To divorce Dad, you'd actually pull a stunt like this. What about me? What am I supposed to do? Did you ever consider my feelings? Memories from 2 lifetimes intertwined. But my son's words couldn't sway me in the slightest. I tilted my chin toward him. Get out, along with your father. My son wanted to say something more, but Zhang Jingkuan pulled him over abruptly. He shot me a fierce glare. Lu Yaru, you treat me and my son like this. You won't get away with it. I thought it was just empty threats. After all, the father and son had neither money nor brains, so I didn't think they could stir up much trouble. I never expected that they, along with Gu Mengchen and Su Jejia, would stoop even lower than I had imagined. 2 days later, several business partners I had worked with all sent me messages at the same time. Sister Yaru, check the trending topics right now. #freshman accuses mother of setting her up in a trap. Explosive news. Seeing this trending topic, I could almost be certain that the freshman mentioned inside must be the son I had just kicked out a few days ago. Clicking into the trending topic, a video immediately popped up. The thumbnail showed my son sitting in front of the screen, with shares and comments reaching over 100,000. In the video, my son first gave a brief self-introduction, emphasizing his college entrance exam score and the university he was admitted to. Then, with a choked voice, he began to accuse his mother, that is, me, of how I had set up a trap to frame him and his father, kicked them out of the house, and refused to cover his tuition and living expenses. My son knew I had evidence of Zhang Jingkuan and Gu Mengchen's affair, so he didn't mention Zhang Jingkuan much, only saying he had made a small mistake. Later, he mainly emphasized how my actions had ruined him and even put him at risk of being expelled from school. At the end of the video, he even posted my photo and name, telling netizens that I run a solid wood business in real life, and hoping everyone would keep their eyes open and not be deceived by me, a son accusing his mother. How novel. The comments section practically exploded. Some expressed sympathy for the son's plight and offered to provide financial support to help him complete his education. The son replied, "Thank you, kind soul, I'll send you my payment QR code in a private message." Some people expressed doubts about the son's video, asking how a score of 659 could get him into University A, and what exactly his father's so-called minor mistake was. Just how minor could it be? The son replied, "This involves personal privacy, so I must apologize for not being able to answer." He really knows how to play the internet game. However, the majority of the comments still pointed the finger at me. They called me an unqualified mother, and said I didn't even deserve to be called a human being. A small account tagged my Weibo handle. Consequently, a flood of netizens poured into my comments section. "No matter what mistake your husband made, how could you drag the child into it? The child is innocent. How could you bear to let him get expelled with a score of 659? If your parents didn't teach you how to be a proper mother, today I'll teach you how to be a decent human being." One like, one stab. 666. She doesn't even look like a woman who would live a steady life. This has completely escalated into a massive online witch hunt. Zhang Jingquan called me, his tone dripping with smugness. "Lu Yaru, before this gets out of hand, I advise you to beg for our forgiveness. If you can transfer 5 million to me by tomorrow night, I'll have my son post another video to clear things up. Otherwise, don't think you'll get off easy." I calmly asked, "Zhang Jingquan, aren't you afraid I'll expose all your dirty secrets for the whole world to see?" A few wild laughs came from the other end of the line. "If I dare to post it, then I'm not afraid. So what if it's cheating? It's a mistake any man could make. But your sins are far worse than mine. You should be worrying about yourself first. First, I'm recording this call. Second, the corner of my mouth lifted, and I deliberately slowed my tone, making sure Zhang Jingquan could hear every word clearly. Your dirty little secrets go way beyond just cheating." 19. At 7 in the evening, I had all the evidence sorted out and posted it on Weibo right on time. I posted 2 entries in total. The first one detailed all my expenses from Zhang Jingquan's graduation to his marriage and having children. I have a habit of keeping accounts, so all the records were there. The second one was a video. After being reborn, I became more cautious. Whenever the two of them were together, I secretly recorded their conversations. With these materials, I taught myself video editing and compiled all the recordings and videos of Zhang Jingquan and my son discussing how to frame me, from my son's suicide note at the very beginning, to him standing on the rooftop threatening to jump, from handing me the notice, to asking me for money to travel with his girlfriend. I included all of it in the edit. In the black screen, the voices of my son and Zhang Jingquan were smug and repulsive. "When you and Jejia fill out your college applications, just put down University A. Don't worry about whether your mom agrees or not. When the admission letter arrives, everything will be settled. Your mom definitely won't abandon you. No matter if the tuition is hundreds of thousands, she'll surely cover it for you. Mom, the tuition is indeed a bit expensive. It's 200,000 a year. Jejia's family isn't very well off, so she might need your help later on. Mom, I don't care. I have to go to University A with Jejia. After all these years, you must have some savings, right? Or you could sell some of your jewelry and clothes. This house can sell for at least 5 or 6 million. Once your mom gets the money, go ask her for your tuition. She's your mother. She definitely won't just ignore you. Then it'll just be the two of us, eating and drinking to our heart's content, while your mom can go find somewhere cool to hang out. If I dare to post it, then I'm not afraid. So what if it's cheating? It's a mistake any man could make. But your sins are far worse than mine. You should be worrying about yourself first." In case the viewers couldn't hear clearly, I thoughtfully added subtitles below. Riding on the heat of my son's story, my blog post gained immense attention the moment it was published. Countless people watched my video, liking, commenting, and sharing. It was almost overwhelming to keep up. Feeling unsatisfied, I dug up intimate photos of Zhang Jingquan and Gu Mengchen, along with Gu Mengchen's social media posts, and published another new blog entry. Allow me to formally introduce my ex-husband and his mistress, his first love. My ex-husband simply made a mistake that all men make, wink, and couldn't wait to take his mistress to a hotel even before our divorce was finalized, and they even booked a short-stay room, wink. To those who donated to my son, take my advice and get your money back quickly. Otherwise, just like my son's student loan, which was approved only to be spent on bags for the mistress and her daughter, you'll regret it. I had just posted it not long ago when someone came to my comment section and shared a screenshot of being blocked by their son. Damn it, I felt sorry for him and transferred him 100,000 yuan, but when I tried to get it back just now, he blocked me. If he doesn't return it, I'll kill him. My popularity quickly surpassed that of my son. The trending hashtag on the hot search list also changed to hashtag mother-son feud takes a sudden turn, hashtag don't mess with mom, hashtag ungrateful son. Because the evidence I provided was too solid, the online attacks shifted their focus toward my son. Not long after, Zhang Jingquan called me again, but this time, it was my son who wanted to make the call. Mom, I was wrong, please help me, so many people are attacking me, and they're demanding I pay back the money. My son's voice was choked with tears again, but he had cried so many times that I couldn't tell if it was real or an act. Since I couldn't tell, I decided to treat it all as an act. I shrugged. If they're asking you to pay it back, just pay it back. It hasn't been that long. Wait, don't tell me you've already spent it all. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. I laughed in disbelief. Are you a money-eating monster? No, it's just that Jia wanted to buy another bag. She said there would definitely be more people giving me money later, so she spent it all. I didn't expect them to want it back so soon. Mom, please help me. Now everyone at school is talking about my situation. I'm so scared. At this point, my son is still so stubbornly deluded. I find it utterly absurd. I let out 2 cold laughs. Now you're scared. If I hadn't recorded it, it would be me, your mother, being attacked by all these people right now. I've already said it. You're an adult now, and you should take responsibility for your own actions. Besides, don't you still have your father? He's clever. Go find him. My son's voice faltered. Mom, I really know I was wrong. Dad said he won't get involved. It was irritating to listen to, so I hung up the phone directly. At this point, what face does he have to say these things to me? I believe I've been good to my son. Whenever he wanted something or wanted to do something, I supported him as much as I could. But how did he treat me? At first, he deliberately set up a scheme, hoping I would help him and his girlfriend get into university together. Later, he acted first and reported later, using student loans to buy bags for his mistress. Now, he's even posted about me online, trying to take revenge through cyberbullying. The outcome he faces now is entirely his own doing. It's not my fault. Zhang Jingquan, the son, Gu Mingchen, and Su Jejia. Now the 4 of them have become famous online. Their workplaces, as well as University A, have almost spread the glorious deeds of these individuals far and wide. Someone dug deep and actually uncovered many details about Gu Mingchen's past. It was only then that I learned that the reason Gu Mingchen broke up with Zhang Jingquan right after graduation was because she was pregnant with the child of a married man. She used the child as leverage and confronted the man's wife. However, the wife was no pushover and directly caused her to miscarry. Later, she latched onto a man in his 40s, a wealthy businessman, and gave birth to Su Jejia. When the businessman's business ran into trouble and he went bankrupt, she relied on her previous savings to raise the child. After drifting around for a while, she eventually returned to Jiangcheng and found Zhang Jingquan again. How can it not be said to be a twist of fate? Someone happened to run into Zhang Jingquan and Gu Mingchen, seized the hot topic, and immediately started a live stream. The 2, who should have been lying low, were now fighting on the street. Zhang Jingquan, clutching Gu Mingchen's hair, spoke in a furious tone. You wretched woman, so you were rushing to be someone else's mistress. Back then, you said you had no choice. And I actually fucking believed it. If it weren't for you, my wife wouldn't have divorced me. I'll beat you to death. Gu Mingchen cried out in pain. Zhang Jingquan, you're insane. What does your divorce have to do with me? Help, help. Some people didn't recognize the 2 and tried to step in to stop them. After being pulled aside by bystanders and getting the full scoop, they too joined the crowd watching the spectacle. The live stream was flooded with comments from netizens. This one is practically legendary. Dog bites dog. What a perfect match. Serves them right. One's a homewrecker, the other's a sleaze bag. I hope they stay locked together forever and stop ruining other people's lives. Hit them, hit them, hit them more. I love watching this. The 2 old ones are fighting here, so where are the 2 young ones? Right, where has my son gone? Speaking of the 2 of them, we have to go back to the enthusiastic netizen who was blocked by my son. He donated 100,000 yuan, and after discovering he had been deceived, he threatened to kill my son if he didn't return the money. My brother wasn't lying. After failing to get the money back, he actually went to my son's school with a knife. At that time, my son and Su Jejia were confirmed to be expelled from school due to their misconduct. When my eldest brother arrived, the two had just completed the procedures. In a life-or-death moment, my son didn't hesitate to pull Su Jejia in front of him to block the knife. Later, when my eldest brother was subdued, Su Jejia pulled out the knife and stabbed my son fiercely in the abdomen. She then stabbed him several more times in the thigh. This incident made the headlines in Jiangxing. The man who donated the money suffered from a mental illness. His son had committed suicide after failing the college entrance exam, so he wanted my son to be able to continue his studies. Little did anyone know, it was a complete scam from start to finish. Su Jejia didn't survive the rescue efforts, but my son miraculously pulled through. No, perhaps it wasn't just luck. Because of Su Jejia's stabbings, he was left permanently disabled, destined to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I sold the house and left Jiangxing, fearing that Zhang Jingquan and my son would cling to me. I moved directly abroad, taking advantage of the momentum from that incident. I restarted my furniture business abroad, catering to clients both domestic and overseas. The orders I received were enough to ensure a comfortable and prosperous life for the rest of my days. Seizing this opportunity, I traveled to many countries, experiencing different cultures and customs while also taking in countless breathtaking landscapes. At the same time, no longer having to worry about my husband and son, I felt a great sense of relaxation. Coupled with proper skin care, my face showed almost no signs of aging. Only then did I truly feel alive. 5 years later, I received a major order from within the country. Out of courtesy, I arranged a dinner banquet. The more than 10-hour flight left me utterly exhausted. After leaving the airport, I went straight to a roadside breakfast shop. Inside the shop, a small television was playing a documentary titled Regrets of the Past. Unexpectedly, the subject of the documentary turned out to be my son, whom I hadn't seen in years. His life was now a complete mess. After the truth came to light, Zhang Jingquan became addicted to gambling. With no money left, he even resorted to borrowing from loan sharks. He lost all his money and, to avoid repaying the debt, tried to flee overnight, only to be hacked to death in an alley. As for Gu Mengchen, she went insane after Su Jejia's death. She was convinced her son was the murderer, screaming for him to pay with his life. Because of the commotion she caused in the hospital ward, she was sent to a psychiatric hospital. In the end, only the son remained. The lower half of his body was paralyzed, and he spent his days in a wheelchair. With his reputation already ruined, he could only make a living by working as a game booster. In front of the camera, his chin was covered in dark stubble, and he looked utterly disheveled and defeated. His eyes reddened, his voice filled with regret. "Mom, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Back then, I was such a scoundrel, to have done such a thing. I hope you can forgive me." The shop owner brought me breakfast and, seeing his son like this, couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Ah, if only we had known then what we know now. This child's life is basically over. I didn't respond, just nodded. Then I took a big gulp of the 8-treasure porridge. His life is over. My life is still long. At least I've been given a second chance. This time, I will live a life of my own brilliance. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.